Well, we suggested it might be a busy week and a half when it came to manager specials in the Championship, and this is the first of three we're expecting over the coming days. And this one relates to Plymouth Argyle, who today have surprised everyone by appointing Miron Muslic as their new head coach. He replaces Wayne Rooney after a short and unsuccessful spell. As always, we will talk about the old man and the new man and how we think they're going to get on at Plymouth Argyle. So firstly, let us go back and talk a little bit about Wayne Rooney. He came in the summer, had a pre-season to work with his team, and we talked when he was appointed about some of the things that were most important. And the first thing we said is he's got to bring in experience alongside him. And we said he probably needed to bring in Mike Phelan, who at the time said he'd be open to doing it. Now, the problem is that did happen, but only about 3 weeks ago, or 3 weeks before his sacking, which really was a little bit too late. And it surprised me the timing. So that's probably for me the first mistake he made. Obviously, it doesn't look good on paper. They were incredibly open defensively, and I think that was his biggest error. We talked about it here. We went to the final pre-season game away at MK Dons, and although they won 1-0 on that occasion, the rate at which they were opened up in wide areas was frightening, and it was almost identical to what we saw against Sheffield Wednesday on the first day of the season. The only difference being, of course, Sheffield Wednesday had the quality to take advantage. So there were definitely issues in the setup. There were definitely issues in the coaching. But Plymouth did remain competitive at home and produced some good performances this season. On the road, though, it was an absolute disaster. Just 2 points in Rooney's time in charge on the road, 3 goals scored, 35 conceded. And of course, as soon as he went, they only kept a clean sheet at Stoke City, which showed it could be done. So that's definitely an area for improvement for the new man. Overall, it's very hard to judge what you say with Wayne Rooney, because I do want to mitigate this by saying I think it's hard to keep Plymouth up as any manager this season, because on paper, I think going into the start of the year, they probably had one of the 3 or 4 weakest squads. They did add some late firepower with Michael Obafemi in the summer window, Andre Gray a bit after, who scored those 2 worldies against Watford to pick them up a point. That's that individual magic you're talking about. And of course, they still managed to keep Morgan Whittaker at the club. But overall, has that squad got the quality over most of the other teams down at the bottom of the Championship? Probably not. Has it got the budget to compete? Probably not. It's a big club. People don't understand how wide a support base Plymouth have got, and they're a brilliant club. They've been well run for recent seasons, despite the fact that they seem to exclusively have appointed Scousers in recent years until now. So Miron Muslic has got that title, if nothing else. The first non-Scouser for a long time. However, I think we have to put Wayne Rooney's stint down as a failure. A 20% win rate. It wasn't a great showing from Plymouth, and aside from a couple of good home performances, there were a lot of concerns, chief among which the dismal defensive record that is 9 worse than anyone else in the Championship, and of the last game before he was sacked, the most conceded by any EFL Championship team at that stage of the season since it was called the Championship in, 04-05 it was rebranded. So yeah, definite concerns there. But out with the old and in with the new. We said that one might not work out, but now Miron Muslic is the new man to take over, despite the fact former manager Steven Schumacher was the heavy favourite for some time. Let's have a quick nose at the statement where it's confirmed that Muslic, a non-Scouser, joins the club on a 3.5-year deal as head coach. They talk very extensively about his time at Cercle Bruges, which was largely successful. They've sort of glossed over how it finished this year, which was pretty dismally, and he completely lost the dressing room. But there is no doubt in the job he did last season was incredibly good to take them to a record total for many a year, to get them into the European qualifiers. Actually watched them in July against Kilmarnock in qualifying for Europe. And it suggests that he beat some high caliber candidates. So he is the man that they've gone for. Apparently, he had a clear vision of how he wanted to take Argyle forward and showed a depth of tactical awareness, making it very clear how he wanted the team to set up and play. Let's hope the players that he's got are able to do that. He has glowing reviews from his time in Belgium. And of course, there is no arguing, despite the fact it finished poorly, he took the team from a lowly position to European football. It's no mean feat, but they were heading back the other way this year before he was sacked in December. I want to welcome him to the club and look forward to seeing him have an immediate impact on the team. No pressure, Miron. You've got to get to work and get points immediately. The first team coach has stayed on board. There will be a few of Muslic's men coming in as well, I'm sure, especially given that Mike Phelan left and Shuttleworth left earlier in the season. But Miron Muslic is the new man. Let's take a little bit more of a look at him, what we can expect from him and what he's got to fix at Plymouth. Because as we discussed, Plymouth's big issues, defensively, particularly away from home, they were so open. Yes, you can talk about fearless football, but the rate at which teams could get in down the channels in wide areas was just frightening. It was so poorly set up. It was tactically inept in those areas. And there's a point where you have to be a little bit more pragmatic and try and get results from it. And I know Schumacher didn't do that, but he had a huge attacking threat, which Wayne Rooney just hasn't had, with just 3 away goals scored all season under his management. If we go and have a look, though, at the man coming in and how his record compares, he's not got experience in English football. He's not really got much experience prior to Cercle Bruges. A couple of short stints in Austria with clubs that weren't expected to be up at the top of the division. He had a couple of poor spells. At Ried, he didn't win a game in 10. And in his other job, he did okay. Over 40% win rate in both of the other two. But Cercle Bruges is the one where it was really impressive because in his first full season, I know he took over early the season before, but in 23-24, he led the club to 4th place after the championship group. They were 5th after the regular season, doing pretty well. And one of the things I found interesting there is they didn't draw many games. There were a lot of victories and defeats. So they lost the most of anyone in the top 9, but they also picked up a lot of victories, more than anyone outside the top 2, being Union St. Gallois and Anderlecht that season. But one of the things I found more interesting was the tight games, because it wasn't this big, free-flowing, exciting attacking football. To give you a little bit of perspective in that season, all of the top 7 in Belgium scored over 50 goals, apart from Cercle Bruges, who after the regular season had 44. Fast forward that to the end of the full season, while it did pick up a little, it scored 57, which was the least of the top 6. And although that was enough to secure them 4th place, it's a bit of a weird system over there. They did it in the end on head-to-head record from Genk. It wasn't the most free-flowing football. Defensively, they weren't perfect, but outside the top 4 or 5, they were the best record. So definitely earned their way by being a little bit more solid and only just conceded over 1 a game across the whole season. So that's something that's got to be a positive. We're not seeing the concession of 2 or 3 goals a game. Even when he had that horrible stint at Ried, he made them hard to beat, and they were getting beaten, but narrowly compared to the rest of the season. So that's going to be a positive. I think we're going to see a slight change in style, particularly away from home, something maybe a little bit more pragmatic. And don't get me wrong, it's a side that does play good football at times when he was at Cercle Bruges, but there was a focus on being a bit more solid without the ball and getting back into shape more quickly, something that just wasn't there in terms of a structure under Wayne Rooney, it has to be said. Going forward, they were a threat at home, Plymouth Argyle, this season. Will that continue? Will it be to the same extent? I'm not quite sure. The statistics would suggest it's going to be quite hard to call because they averaged about 1.5 goals a game at Cercle Bruges, but he did have a plethora of attacking talent at the time. Alan Minder in particular, a good young player. There were some quality ones in the club. So it's hard to tell what we're going to see with Plymouth, but I do think there's attacking talent there. There's going to be the same usual question in this window about will Morgan Whittaker stay? Of course, he's linked away in every window recently. And who are they going to be able to bring in with people like Andre Gray having left the club? What approach are they going to take? I would expect to see probably 2 or 3 defensive reinforcements. For the way he wants to play, I don't think there's enough defenders there to do it. So I think we are going to see changes in that area of the pitch. Whereas going forward, I don't think they'll need quite so much. But the question is, can he stem the tide? Can he stop Plymouth's goal rut at the back? 53 conceded, over 2 a game. They're scoring less than 1 a game. They're the joint lowest scorers in the division. It's not a good record to have. But away from home is the big question. We know Plymouth are going to be competitive at home, while we expect games to be a little lower scoring now. Can they stop these big clusters of goals going in on the road? They managed to do it against Stoke, albeit they rode their luck. It wasn't that they were brilliant defensively. It's just that they were throwing bodies on the line and sitting a little deeper. Now, can Miron Muslic adapt to English football and make that happen at Plymouth? It's a club we've always had a bit of a soft spot for here, going all the way back to interviewing the skipper when they got promoted from League Two. And we've had a lot of very fair feedback from the manager specials previously about Plymouth. So I'm really intrigued to see what you think about this, because one of the things that we do often say before we go is, will a manager see out their contract and how will they get on? But with Plymouth Argyle, we've talked about it with a few of the manager specials, probably 2 of the last 3. We said the timing was perfect. We sort of saw that to full effect with Gary Rowett, who's flown up the table with Oxford United in similar circumstances. Look at the timing of this manager being brought in. He's going to be in the stands for the Brentford game tomorrow, which is understandable. But the first 2 games in charge, The rearranged game at home on Tuesday night against Oxford United, who are unbeaten under Gary Rowett. Then 4 days later at home to QPR, who are resurgent, but not the best travellers in the league. Those 2 games are absolutely massive before a run against Burnley, Sunderland, West Brom that's going to be tricky. If Muslic doesn't win one of the first 2, it's then going to probably get to 5 without a win. Then you're going away to Luton, who for all their failings this season have been solid at home and probably will have a new manager bounce by then. And then you get the real pressure games, the likes of Cardiff at home, Millwall at home potentially, Pompey away, Derby County at home. But by that stage, if you've lost 5 or 6 of your first 7, are you out of the mix? That's going to be the problem because Plymouth, they have been cut a little bit adrift. That point against Stoke was really crucial. But you look at the other sides picking up points. They are now 3 off the next sides, but it is only 3 points, effectively 4 given their goal difference. Is the positive start going to be as expected for the board? Because it's very clear why they've targeted bringing him in at this point with these 2 league games coming up. And Tuesday night against Oxford is now going to be absolutely massive. Do you think he's going to be able to continue the competitive home form? And then what are we going to see when they go on the road to Sunderland and Luton? Will they sit behind the ball or will they continue to have the floodgates open, particularly in wide areas? Let us know your thoughts, Plymouth fans. Doesn't really matter what I think. What do you think of the new appointment? Of course, a manager or a head coach you've probably not seen or heard a lot about. I know a lot of you were having big discussions expecting Steven Schumacher to be the man. But what do you make of Miron Muslic? Of course, we know you'll get behind him, but genuinely, do you think you've got the chance to stay up? Do you think he'll be backed in January? Or do you think that given what you've seen, particularly on the road this year, it might be a little bit difficult from here, particularly with other sides changing manager and picking up form? Do you think it's the right decision to go with someone with no experience in English football? Or are you just grateful to see someone who's outside that old scouting network of Merseyside? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Plymouth stay up? Do you think Muslic sees out the 3.5 years? The average lifespan of a championship manager probably gives you the answer to that. And I guess another question before we go, if Plymouth do go down, which is a possibility, we have to say it, will Muslic stay in the job in League One? I'd like to know your thoughts on that. My answer would probably be, I think he gets sacked if they go down. I don't know if that's fair. I'm not sure if that's right because I think they would be one of the favourites in most people's eyes and were pre-season with or without Rooney. But let us know what you think about all of that. Do you think Plymouth get the bounce against Oxford United to inflict a first defeat on Rowett on Tuesday? You can see my thoughts on that on Sunday. We'll be live with our championship predictions as always. Come and get involved with those prediction shows. Give us your thoughts on them. And of course, keep your eyes peeled for a couple more manager specials. West Brom and my club Luton Town both looking. We'll surely have episodes to come from those 2 clubs soon. For now though, thank you very much for watching this one. If you did enjoy it, please do chuck a thumbs up on the video. Let us know what you think of Muslic, Plymouth fans and other championship fans. If you're a fan of another club down in that battle, are you now worried about Plymouth Argyle? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to stay up to date with everything. Turn that little notification bell on and enjoy the weekend of FA Cup action before the championship returns next midweek. Our prediction show for the 3 rearranged games will be live with you on Sunday evening. We'll see you there.